Hello, hello, my fellow heroes or villains, I guess, as it is the eve of the official release of Set 4 League of Villains. And of course, if you guys haven't already, you can go to unfunstuff.com, plug in the code plugin, and save 5% on your order to get all your League of Villains product. And if you have any new players, just got to get the plugs out of the way. Use referral code ACE over at play.mhacardgame.com to make sure that they are set up to get their loyalty points. It helps the channel out, etc., etc. You all know what we're here for. It's orange card, blue card. I'm joined by my guest, Nikolaus. Nikolaus, you want to introduce yourself to the good folks at home?
Sure. My name's Nicholas. I've been playing Universus since set one of MHA. Before that, I didn't know the game existed. I wish I did because I probably would have played when Mortal Kombat dropped.
Oh, okay.
But that's neither here nor there. But I've played pretty on and off since set one. I really played a lot during set one. I enjoyed it. Set two came out and it became all about life, and I was like, yeah, I'm not really in the mood. Set three Set three came out, and I got back into it, and now I'm actually like really hyped for set four. I think it's
Okay.
brought a good balance of power level to the game, to where there might be a little bit more variance than just, hey, I can who can Ojiro or Tokoyami me first.
I'm hoping that's true. We'll talk about that a bit later in the cast. I do want to ask you. You mentioned something kind of interesting. You're not about that life. How do you feel about paying life, Nicholas?
I'm actually all right with it because life is a resource in every game that you play. So if you're willing to pay the life, it's fine. And I think it's it can give you some good advantages in probably one of my favorite characters. So
Well,
which is
yeah, you would definitely enjoy Mortal Kombat in that case, then, because if you go to that set and you just type in like lose one vitality or use the underscore in UVS Ultra, that entire set is about paying your own life as a resource and unlocking benefits when you are below half health. So that's a main theme of that set.
oh, sounds like a blast, to be honest. I wish I would have known about the game sooner, because every time I look at the older sets, I'm like, this seems like a lot of fun, but it also seems very frustrating at the same time.
Well, I think it's different, right? Because what's mostly frustrating for me is sort of what was frustrating for you with the whole life symbol format, where a lot of times the board state is very deterministic of how this game's gonna go. Once you get past turn two, you get to a point where people can pass enough attacks to kill you at any moment. You have to hold as many blocks as you can, but you also can't fall behind in resources. And that's like what the life symbol's all about. Even now, in set four, the life symbol has like these crazy new combos to just accelerate its build, to accelerate its resources. It stays card neutral at worst with stuff like passing the torch and back alley haymaker a lot of the time. So um, I'm hoping set four changes that, but a lot of what I've seen from set four has been, uh, let's just say, very archetype dependent. Unless it's like Shigaraki's cards or it's like basically order symbol stuff. Most of the stuff seems really like implanted into its own theme.
Yeah, that's fair. From the testing I've done, it's kind of been the same thing. I'm really digging the order simple now. I played it a little bit back in set one, but I'm really digging it now, and I've built a couple of decks that I'm having a lot of success with that I think are just they're I'm known in my community as like the guy who will play the meme deck 99% of the time. So I've played a couple of characters that are people will look at and they'll be like, "Oh, okay," and then they'll have to double take like, "Wait, what does this guy do?" And
What's
then
what's the most memey character you've played?
Mineta won.
Okay, yeah, it's pretty far down there. A lot of people are talking him up right now, though.
Yeah, like the main reason is I know I said this earlier in one of your streams when you were playing TTS, but him with Showdown is actually really legit because you basically pay one, you commit two foundations, and they commit one for themselves. So you're losing one vitality for three, a stun three, basically. And
Yeah.
then you just pair that with indiscriminate shock and electric jolt. You're basically just committing their whole board out and then saying, "Hey, catch."
Yeah, he's big catch energy for sure. I wanted to like the design. I was really upset because it was Mineta and no one likes the character. But I thought the design was really nice, like a payoff for blocking, and it works on offense too. When your rival blocks your own attacks, you can pay a life. And I was like, that's a pretty okay cost. You know, pay one life, stun one when you're going for the win is definitely something that's doable. But are you winning your locals with these meme decks? Are you going 3-0 at locals with these?
I tend to go. Our locals is pretty small, but I tend to go like 2-1 most of the time. I'll pick up just a character I really just wanted to play and be like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna build a deck around this. I've gotten like a couple times it hasn't worked a lot. Like I built Tokoyami 2 in set 3, and that deck was fun, but it just couldn't kill people. But for set 4, I'm actually really excited because there's a couple of things now that make some characters able to take games off of people that you don't expect. And another one that's actually pretty meme heavy is Present Mike 1 under Fire or Life. You play you play him and you play Muscular's attacks. And since Muscular's attacks have a lot of damage, you just boost them up with speed.
Hmm.
Since it's every four, what is it, every four you get a speed if it's removed. So you just like, all right, yeah, I'll just keep committing him, keep removing cards from your deck. And it actually might be decent this set if there are characters like Dabi, who's super popular, or uh, who, what's it, Sato 1. It's not going to be probably very competitive, but it could potentially just throw people for a loop and take a game off them. And they'll have to change around their whole playstyle completely just to stop this guy from giving a 6 damage move for speed and making it a 10 mid for 6.
Yeah, I did actually look at Present Mike 1 for potentially being a sideboard for my muscular deck because a lot of times he just ends up being a training dummy for these seven handers with tons of damage pump. But I haven't been able to survive as Present Mike either. Like they just kill me as Present Mike. So maybe a game three going first kind of a strategy, something like that. But what I wanted to ask you was would that change if there was money on the line? Would you kind of buck up and start playing less memey characters and playing like more of a, I guess, a meta approved character is how we'll put it?
Yeah, I definitely would. For Nats, I kind of buckled up and picked a character that I knew was decent for the meta, which was I played Midnight. I thought that she
Ooh,
was probably the character that could have potentially taken the most off of characters like Kirishima 1. And I sideboarded into Toru specifically for Tokoyami. Toru 1.
interesting. Okay.
So I could just, when he plays his stupid action card and then plays his next one to make actions not count, I'll be like, yeah, I'm just going to flash that now. Play a card on an 8 with no plus to your check. And it did decently well. That was the one time I really wished I would have probably bucked up sooner, but it was
Mhm.
also hard because I didn't like any of the meta decks until set 3 came out.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan. I like set two format outside of Momo match. Like outside of feeling like my deck had to be warped to somehow climb the Momo mountain, which we didn't see until the last online regional when the gamer Toga was finally sort of perfected into this overwhelming number of just pure stun and pure card draw and filter and dig defined the absolute perfect hand till we can eventually play an attack that requires it to be the sixth card in your card pool, like the absolute jankiest combo. And the best part, I always bring this up whenever Jose's regional online regional win with Toga comes up, is if you go back, if it's available to watch with the Twitch chat at all, the Twitch chat is complaining about Momo the whole time she's dying. Like the whole time she's like, You know, Ryan Field is like blocking every attack for like the first four, and people are like, "Look at this ridiculousness! This is absurd!" And then he just plays like floating around my babies, and then three more attacks and kills her with a million plus one. And so, you know, we've always had a format that decks can just pop off and absolutely rail you at any turn, pretty much. And luckily, I don't think Momo symbols have gotten too much as far as like shutting your turn down. It's just Momo gets to survive for a really long time, and I like that balance right now. But like
Sorry to interrupt you. One
if you were to
second, my
play,
son's crying.
yeah, you're all right.
Sorry, I just don't want it to be interrupting. So hold on 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so the Momo deck that got second place in the online regional, everyone was complaining about it just because it managed to block like the first 3 out of 4 attacks or something like that, or it blocked like, you know, more attacks than other decks have. But I don't think blocking potential has gone up for too many decks. Um, you know, the decks that were already really, really good at blocking still just kind of do their thing, but we have seen some pretty powerful tools for ending turn. Um, and so that I think is going to be a big shift towards the format, is trying to forcibly end your rival's turn. Previously, we had to do that like exclusively through card pull clogging or through breaker. But now we have cards like Showdown coming in, and even maybe more importantly is a card like League Invitation. Welcome back, Nick.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
So
sorry about that.
no, you're absolutely fine. Real life happens, man. I did want to ask you though. So if you were going to play in a tournament for, let's just hypothetically say $125 cash, what would be some of the characters and their symbols that you'd be looking at?
So for me, like I would play the meta decks, and like the one that I probably would play, but I cannot. It just feels so bad in my blood is Tokoyami 1 on Chaos,
Yeah.
probably. That deck still seems to be the best deck in the room. Uh,
I know quite a few people who think so too. It has a
it,
lot of the same stuff Dobby has going, but it has check bonuses. But it has
yeah,
an eighth card in its hand. It has damage reduction, even if it's only -1. We saw even one of the greatest to ever do it, Tim Keefe, just miss a calculation in a high pressure environment. And, you know, that's the difference between a champ card and a contender card.
yeah, it's the it's the really like the deck that all aggro decks have to kind of live up to. And I think the only other one that kind of does that is Ojiro 2, who I'd probably play underwater because I have played it once before. I think the character is really cool, and the water symbol does a lot of cool stuff and a lot of what I like to do, which is really cause some disruption and make them think about their decisions. When you have a tongue whip that you could play twice that has now 3/3 on it is kind of hard to stop.
Yeah, the water version I think has way better defense, and it has like a more even keeled sort of an offense. But it doesn't have like the high rolly, like it's almost like all symbol has like the best um late game plan, like Ojiro with Funny Punch and like the best deadlock. Earth has like the best early game haymaker plan. It literally gets back alley haymaker and like early build with Missouri Smash like we saw at Nads. And then Water plays like the best overall game because it actually has the breaker blocks. It's got card pull stuffing. It has ways to like, there's better ways than Earth to interrupt combos and stuff like that. So Ojiro's definitely on my short list, but it doesn't feel like a deck anyone wants to commit any real time to because it feels icky, kind of like Tokoyami, where your hoop to jump through is generally solved by your own foundation. And we've watched on Wednesday webcam weeklies, you know, the last one I casted with Levi, Ojiro doesn't need Student of the Art to beat anyone, but especially not seven-handed.
Yeah, it's such a to me, Ojiro is very much a I would call him a blunderbuss, which is like an old fashioned shotgun. You have to wait until like the right time, but when you do, you're not gonna stop him. And
Yeah, I like that analogy because
Tokoyami's
the smaller Ojiro decks, it feels like they misfire. It doesn't feel like the deck's not good. It feels like they misfire when they don't have like this amazing turn 2 or turn 3, like 4 or 5 attack turn.
yeah, and that's the thing about him is that you have to know the deck you're playing against just as much as you need to know what's in your deck. And adjusting your game plan to that is very hard when you're trying to play the character that just swing, hit face, and kill.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why Tokoyami's still so much better is because his game plan is very much get blue card, play big attack.
Right. And that blue card can be used for defense, which we've seen bail him out a lot in high pressure tournaments, getting a very important block off. But if you had to say right now, what are like the top 3 meta decks, including set 4? You know, set 4 comes out tomorrow, it's legal tomorrow. Set 4, what are the top 3 characters in your opinion? Like overall from any set, but like in the set 4 format.
Set 4 format, I think it's going to be probably Tokoyami 1 at the top. I want to say it's kind of a tie between Jiro and Ojiro because Jiro and Ojiro kind of play very very similar. They tend to go for the one turn kill, have a lot of attacks spread out over
6-hander, stats based on cards in card pool,
yeah.
1 letter difference in their name, very similar.
Exactly. And then the final one I think might be a little bit of a surprise, but I think if we're talking about maybe a control deck, probably the best one is going to be either Shiggy 1 or Ochako 1. And the only reason I say Shiggy 1 is because Shiggy 1 on fire got a really good card in Muscle Rush.
Yeah, Muscle Rush is fucked up.
So yeah, now it's pay what is it? It's a 4 cost, so yeah, 4 deal 6. So
you can guarantee kill 7-handers if you go through your whole deck, right?
Exactly. And then like him and I think Ochako 1 is kind of slept on. And it's mainly because I think the new All for One stuff really kind of pushes her under at least the chaos symbol back into competitive light because she kind of fell off for a while.
Yeah, she doesn't put that many stats on things, right? The format definitely tilted towards characters who put stats on every single attack. We've seen less and less once per turns be relevant. Fourth Kind fell hard out of the meta once the Momo realization happened. And even a deck like Eraserhead, it's speed control in every single attack. So your HLC decks that had once per turn style abilities on day 2 were almost non-existent. I can't think of one. Like Ojiro has a once per turn, but I mean like their stat pump, right, being a once per turn thing, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and I could see that. I do think that she might have a chance. It just really depends on how everything plays out. But the Air Cannon Blast, the 5 high for 4, that basically allows you to shape your momentum, I think is pretty nuts in her. And her once per turn, hey, just clear my card pool once. And if you do that, like say they play a showdown to block your high attack, well, I put it in my card pool, I put it into my momentum, and I have this fancy new 0 diff that when I gain a momentum, flip it up and restand it. So you do have a chance to have some sort of one turn kill with Ochako, it's just going to be very it. It's going to be kind of like a shotgun deck in the same way that Tokoyami and Ojiro and Jiro are. You just kind of have to set yourself up for a turn, but she does have a lot of ways to give speed now too, if you're playing the indiscriminate shock variant.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is it's sad that the Toga Foundation that does basically the same thing is Toga only, because I think Life could see, because you mentioned specifically as a control variant, like I think Life could have seen a lot of really cool Ochako play where if you have enough life gain and you have enough stat pump, which Life has tons of damage pump, it doesn't really have like a feeling cute or a repeatable speed pump. So, maybe we're using rescue completed. I don't know. But the new Toga attack, I think it's Gory Stab. It's only 2 high speed, but it's high so you can add straight to your momentum. And then if your rival wants to use something like One with Nature, you can pay 3 life to kill it, to just destroy it. It doesn't cancel it, so you still probably have to eat the first attack, but your opponent loses that ready foundation and they lose One with Nature. So there's some pretty nice tech pieces, but that 3 life might still get you killed, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool tech pieces on Life, and I kind of hope that someone does figure it out because I think that she's one of those characters since she fell off so hard and people didn't really experiment with her in the other sets past, set one when she was really, really popular. I think that there's some kind of hidden variant on at least Life or Air. Because Chaos seems pretty straightforward with most stuff. But I think Life, as you were mentioning, does have a unique way of allowing you to control the game and the way you want to flow on the game. So I think if someone really wants to play Ochako, I think that she and finds that list, she's going to be very much a top meta pick.
Yeah, she's got some really risky plays too. She's one of the best gambling decks in set 4. If you want to play 1-checks, you got some moves. You've got like Gravity Lift to add Rushing Stab is something I'm down for. It doesn't seem like a competitive strategy, but when it comes down to it, I think the last thing we want to see is set 1 characters become meta.
Yeah, and I understand that. That's why I think people are kind of tired of Tokoyami being at the top for so long, and same thing with the Bridesmaid Jiro. They want to see those newer characters kind of thrive, but the set 1 characters are just so dominant and so strong. If you want Tokoyami to be pushed out, you need to make a aggro deck that does exactly what he does, but slightly better.
Ooh, also, and that's the flip side of the coin, right? Is if one set 2 dropped, none of the set 1 characters were playable anymore. Everyone would complain that they don't get to play their favorite character anymore, and the game's all about power creep, and you have to buy the new stuff. So, in being careful to not just power creep everything out, which is exactly that, right? Make a deck that does the same thing but better. It's almost like we have gone too far the other direction where new cards, new characters don't seem, they seem a little underwhelming, but they do have that solution. There is a solution now. It is the Monday Monthly Mayhem or the Monthly Monday Mayhem. I forget what it is, but the Triple M tournament has been what we've been slowly building to here is a new cash tournament that is paying out to top 8s, and it's set 4 characters only, right? For the very first one. I was gonna say villains only, but I think it's only set 4 characters, right?
Yeah, so it's limited to only set 4 characters. That includes quirk packs and your promo pack, though. Your plus ultra kit. So it includes Magni and also includes Mr. Compress. So you have Compress, Magni, All Might, All for
So
One,
get to play some
Shiggy,
heroes.
all those. Yeah,
Get
you
to
can play the one hero.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. I'm excited to see how many people really explore with set 4 and constructed, because muscular was a huge menace to sealed play. There's very few locals out there that did not see a muscular win a pre-release. And a lot of the bigger ones and a lot of the locals I've seen who have had multiple pre-releases have had lots of success from muscular.
Yeah, and I could see that. Muscular Sealed plays its own animal, but characters like Muscular, Nomu, and even All Might 1 are like really dominant in sealed play because they have such high helds and they have a ability that just pumps damage and knocks out a lot of the lower health characters. It I'm not sure it's going to be as big of a problem in Mayhem just due to the fact that this is constructed and you may only have this limited pool of characters. However, you have you have 4 sets worth of cards to build your deck around. And I think this is going to be like my hot take. I think Shiggy is going to be the most registered character at that tournament. It's only because I've seen so many people hype up Shiggy, him or Dobby, and
Shigaraki's the most fun. I can say that he's the most fun to play so far.
And I could see that. I I think it's just funny that I truly believe that those are going to be the 2 most played characters, but one of them is you have to play perfectly, and the other is if he draws 4 attacks, you're more than likely dead.
Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to sealed, the other thing is people did a lot of no symbol chaining, which I think is wild.
Yeah.
I haven't played too much sealed. It's not my favorite. I'd much rather draft like every time. And I hate the rule where like you play like a foundation face down as a blank card, which again, I guess it solves some anomalous parts of the game where sometimes you can't actually play a legal deck, but especially so if you don't have MHA chaining, because we used to have soft chaining where you could put any card in your deck, you just can't play it unless you're matching symbols right now. So like you could have a 3 symbol deck and you're like, okay, well I drew more order cards than earth cards or whatever, whatever the symbols the character has. And you would just be like, all right, well, this turn I'm an earth deck, I guess, unless you could clear your card pool. If you clear your card pool, like Bakugo, you could be like, all right, well, I discard this fire card and I'll play this air card because my card pool's clear. So it wasn't as big of an issue back then. So I get like now with the whole 1 symbol thing, it's easier to just say, go crazy. But I think that's a big part of Muscular's success in Sealed is listening to people say, yeah, well, I put this Final Smash in my Muscular deck. I pulled an XR Final, or some, just some card he can't normally play, right? Like some card that he was designed to not be used with, and now all of a sudden he can, is definitely like a big red flag because Muscular has really specific abilities. He is tuned around the symbols he's on, and thinking about him being able to play like really big sword is just really funny.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I also think that's part of the reason why, at least I've seen, is a lot of people love sealed play and limited in general is because you have that character that you can play where you can play with cards that he's not normally played with. It's just a different experience, and you're right, is that he's built around those 3 symbols, but it's interesting to see. It's like, well, what would have happened if maybe he was built around this one? Because he pulled maybe a bunch of order stuff. Granted, he's probably super broken with a bunch of the Shiggy stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you right now, dual needle lunge with muscle rush is a combo I can't believe it took me so long to figure out. Like I can't believe I didn't immediately look at that. Like I've been so focused on like really weird specific builds with Muscular and trying to keep the deck from not being like a toolbox of every decent card on the symbol. But like that alone, like that's on his own kit, right? Like that's on his own symbols, like the life symbol and stuff. And then I'm just like thinking about like every other thing that goes to momentum that he can play like with his own cards. So yeah, I do love the idea of the crazy wacky combinations you can't possibly ever do anywhere else. But thinking about constructed, I'm super duper excited because there's so many cool things to do in League of Villains, and I'm glad that we're gonna get for the first tournament. This is actually gonna be like the first tournament, even though it's still shaped like a weekly, I guess, a local. that has set for. It's going to be the first, I guess, event with a prize
Yeah.
that people really might care about. So, um, unfortunately, they haven't given us too many details for the Triple M event, right? There's like one web page put out.
Yeah, it's enough information to get people like wanted to play. They give you participation pricing and top eight, what top eight pricing is. They as well as when you could start signing up. However, they didn't put like a key piece of information was how much it's going to cost.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of especially for people like me who's a little bit on a budget,
Mhm.
I prefer to know a little bit more in advance. So if I want to play in one, if I want to play in the first one, and with the new set cards and playing only set four leaders, then I have to kind of move things around at the last second. It, but just also just giving that to your players, like, hey, it's just a common courtesy. It's like, hey, this is how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, I think it's kind of weird to announce the prize but not have the participation fee listed, but they've done a pretty decent job. It's you got almost 2 weeks notice. I guess
Yeah.
what was Wednesday would have been exactly 2 weeks, or no, because it's not a Monday, it can't be. But you got like 12 days notice. That's almost 2 weeks. Um, I'm very curious to know how fast it's gonna sell out because that first provisional was a lot more people and it sold out like practically instantly. And I imagine this one might be the same way just because people are anxious to get their hands on some competition.
Yeah. I I think this is going to be this is more of a test run for them in the fact that they're doing it on a weekday. They're trying to see how much they could drum up on a weekday, how many players they can get out. And if it sells out fast, repetitively for a few months, my guess would be like a smart business move would be to move it to a weekend day where you can expand that player base, ultimately make more money for yourself and for unfun stuff and allow more people to compete in your game, which is ultimately what you want. The game is extremely fun. It just you need to have those tournaments where it feels like you're competing for something. You have a drive to want to play the game.
I like this a lot because it seems like a sustainable way to host a 1K, which we've tried in the past when it was Universes and when it was UFS. And we even had, I think, two 1Ks early on for MHA in set one, and then we had none after that. There was, I want to say, a Canadian Red Riot Games 1K, and I don't think it went super well for them. And then there was there was another online 1K, I think like a month before that. And that's the other thing is that they were maybe a little too close together. But this is essentially a 1K event, only instead of it being like top heavy, because a lot of them are like $500 to first place, $250 to second place, and then like split out to top four, and it's like $20 to enter, or sometimes more. I think I've seen some that were 30 or 50. So like
Yeah.
it can be like kind of a heavy investment, especially if you know you're not going to get enough players, and then if you don't get enough players, you don't actually have the prize pool, and people get upset at that, which I've run into with my own events. I was going to run a circuit of Win-A-Box events, like 4 Win-A-Boxes, and post it right when the set came out. So it would be like you're basically pre-ordering your boxes by playing in tournaments. And, I was practically giving them away at like less than $10 per entry fee.
Wow.
Enough for product. So hopefully cash is a much more anticipated prize.
Yeah, I think it will be. And just because if you win product, obviously you could sell that product to if you pull something good.
Can
As
you
well as like
though?
yeah,
I'm gonna be a little negative Nancy just for a second because before the set even comes out, we got stores on TCG Player fucking tanking the prices of SRs and every ultra rare. So I'm a little annoyed at the secondary market right now because it doesn't feel like it's controlled by anything players can do.
Yeah, it's rough because there are those stores that do that. But the reason I think also, but that also just leads me to that. Cash is you when you get money, you can spend it on whatever. It
Yes.
also just incentivizes people to be like, all right, yeah, I'll spend this 20 or 25, $30 to enter a tournament. I do get some participation promo or prizing, but I have a chance of potentially making it to the top eight. And it appeals to pretty much everybody because everyone loves money.
Yeah. Well, and that yeah, it's a universal prize, and I assume it's going to be $20 per person because the pricing breakdown, as it stands right now, is top eight gets $125. They haven't mentioned anything for first place, so it's looking like it's going to be a 64-person tournament, and whoever goes 3-0 is going to make top eight. I believe that's the math that breaks down. Is you'll end up with 8 players who are 3-0. And I kind of like this because if you lose the first round, you can just drop and move on. And you got I think you got $20 worth of booster. Yeah, you get 2 booster packs and you get 2 plus ultra packs, right? So if you figure for $5, you generally get 1 plus ultra pack, and for $5 ish after tax, you get 1 booster pack, right? And they
Yeah.
gotta ship it to you, whatever. So for $20, you'll get basically what you would have gotten if you went to your LGS, you played into locals events and bought 2 booster packs. Not terrible. And then um, if you do all that math right, you add 64 up, or you take $1,000, you divide it by 64. It's about 15 and change. So you imagine that they're going to have to charge more than $15 and less than 30. So I could see it being $25 just because they might want to actually make some money off this. It's going to
Yeah.
take, hours out of someone's night to run this tournament. And then there's also going to be judges involved. There's going to be people who, you might want to make it worth their time and investment. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's 25. I would be surprised if it goes over 30.
Yeah. I think the sweet spot would be 25, $30 in between those two numbers. It gives them enough money to make and pay those individuals and allow them to make some money, but it isn't too heavy of a burden on somebody to participate in them once a
Yeah.
month, you know?
Yeah, most interestingly, it's being held by unfun stuff. So I've been trying not to do, overly plug everything. But you guys can see down there at the bottom, I do got the unfun stuff logo. I've got the creator content code at their website and everything. So I'm really excited to see Jasco's finally able to, because I was told they couldn't. It's not that they didn't want to or that they didn't think to, but they're finally able to start working with stores a bit more. They're finally able to start promoting things a bit more. Your boy actually got the shout out on the official Jasco Facebook page for the box opening, which I didn't think that they were ever going to do because, again, the last thing I got told was they can't promote content creators like that. So I think they found like a loophole where it's not like, hey, go check out Ace Maneuvers. He's making videos for our game. It's they just relink it. So maybe there's some line that they've found out that as long as they don't cross, it's okay. But I'm very excited to see them working together with stores like this, working together, promoting people's videos and things like that. Because that stuff from them helps us out a whole lot.
Oh yeah, that's really weird because I never knew that Jasco couldn't do that. Because I've seen other games be like, "Hey, community spotlight, check out this video of XYZ creator opening up this product and building or playing out or trying out our game." And it's something that is so simple that they could do, and I think that would just one bring spotlight to great content creators and really help them out, but also it's just good advertising. If people like playing your game and they're willing to take time to make videos about it, why not? That all you have to do is pay someone for 30 seconds to be like, "Hey, come check out this awesome content creator. He's doing a deck profile on this character."
brand new characters from League of Villains, right? Like that's what we want to
Yeah,
focus on. Someone did a deck profile for was it they got the hashtag my villain deck. They're
yeah.
basically just asking you to post your deck list, and if you talk about it at all, it becomes a deck profile.
Oh yeah, exactly. So it's literally just it's free advertisement. It's that stuff, but providing it to the people who are willing to do it, like yourself, Tam, Andrew Holder, Levi, just and all the other small ones that are out there. It just really would push it over because there are some that I've discovered that I never knew about because there's it's so small and they're only really known in universes. And I kind of dipped my toe in the pool and I've kind of spread out a little bit, but it's more of just I didn't know these people existed. So if they gave like had a community spotlight each week, like, hey, check out this awesome video from XYZ content creator. And I hope that they can do that more where they just start
Yeah.
supporting their people who are supporting their game.
It's tough because like we have the content channel, right? There's in the official My Hero Discord, there's MHA CCG content, but that's just where everyone posts their videos, and it's technically out of the way, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're not already in the mood to be watching something on YouTube, you're probably not going to go there and look for something to watch. If you're not already anticipating something that you want to watch, it's just not something people are going to be like, they're not going to have that tab open in their
Yeah.
Discord, basically, right? And then when you go to YouTube, when you do feel like watching YouTube content, they have the entire suggestions page for people to browse. And if you're not algorithm friendly and showing up in people's suggested feeds, you're not going to get any play there either. So the Facebook is where I get most of my clicks because it's the middle ground of this is a community where you'll go for this content, like you're in My Hero mood, you could scroll through, but also something you can happen upon and go, oh, I feel like watching this, and just click it. So it's really nice that they're helping us out on there. The official answer I was given was, and this is someone who's not with the company anymore, so take it with a grain of salt. I don't know this was ever the truth, but the answer I was given was to work closely with content creators or sponsor them in any way would require approvals from Toho, I think is the company for My Hero, right?
Toei?
Toei. Okay, yeah, Toei. I don't know. I don't know which one. I almost said Funimation, but that wouldn't be. But yeah, so it would require approvals from the company who owns the rights. And then on top of that, that requires background checks and like all this time and investment that maybe they've just finally finished. Maybe they did actually do those things and that's come to fruition. But I got really sore because I felt like a big reason why I couldn't get the Ace Maneuver tournament circuit to kind of pop off was because right when I was announcing it and I was like, hey, can you guys put me on the schedule? I don't know if you guys remember, they used to have a community schedule for events, for content, specifically for, it would list when they were going to do the Wednesday webcam weeklies. It listed Tam Talks. It listed Learn to Play with Tony 2. And at the time, it had the unofficial World Championship TTS Belt Challenge, whatever it was called. But it had TTS in the name by Unfun Stuff. And it would have a couple other things that people would regularly do, mostly live streams and stuff like that. I think it had Brewing with the Boys or Brewing with Birch and Bromley. And then afterwards, it had with the TTS Belt Challenge, I think is what they called it. And I was told they couldn't put it on there because it's a TTS event. And I was like, well, I'm not trying to fuck up my boys. I'm not trying to fuck up Unfun Stuff's TTS Belt Challenge, but you can understand where I'm very confused. And it was very shortly after that whole calendar went away. And so it really felt like the two people, there was also the market. What was that guy's name? I can't remember. There was a market day, Market Mondays with Slim Gem. You remember that? And it felt like those three or four channels kind of had a big jump out of the gate. They had a huge push forward just because that was like the only way to really advertise content, I guess, or like in a main place that people would go to and be posted by Jasco. And anything Jasco like officially does just gets way more traction because it's the actual company, so every single person interested in the game is going to take a look.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like I remember that community tab and seeing all the stuff that you're talking about. I honestly didn't know it could be true, but my thing is that from a business perspective, Toei wants to make more money. Jasco wants to make more money. Why does it seem like Toei's so against advertising the game with the show? And it's in doing that, it just pushes one. The show is super popular right now, and Jasco makes more money, which puts more people into actual other My Hero merch that Toei owns. It it's just sometimes it's baffling to me because all this stuff is like they're corporations, they want to make more money to pay more to have more profits. It seems like such a smart move to do to advertise because season 6 dropped like what 4 months ago.
Yeah.
Like you could have did something so cool with that, like, oh hey, for season 6, check out the My Hero card game, and then they could have advertised your guys' YouTube channels, which will then get more new people into the game.
Mm-hmm.
It literally just grows itself.
Well, so I have kind of a sour answer, I guess, and it might not be the answer that you'd want to hear from the content creator, but let me put it to you this way: how much money do you think I've made Toho?
Uh, Honestly, I have no idea.
How much money do you think
Probably,
I've made Jasco game by making?
probably a little more than Toei.
Yeah, or Toei. Sorry, not Toho. Toei.
Oh, you
Yeah, the answer is probably not much. Like, not a
yeah,
ton. Like, if I have made them enough money from people watching my videos and going out to play in events and buy boxes, which is it's a very ephemeral, not ephemeral. It's a very like abstract thing to quantify too, right? Because almost nobody has seen my content and went, "Wow, I've never heard of this game," and like went and checked it out. There's a few, but very few. It's like maybe 4 people at most, right? And I don't think too many people have been like inspired to buy a box because of me, right? So like for Jasco to send me boxes to open on stream and for the amount of traction that I get, it's not really worth it. I'm eternally grateful and it is something very cool that they do, right? But when it comes to everyone, it's something I hear a lot where people are like, well, it just makes sense to like collaborate with these people and effectively utilize a lot of the free work that we do, right? Like a lot of it is people want to be where people already are. This is why it's very
yeah,
difficult to get a following as a content creator in general is because people are always going to gravitate to the bigger streams. Like right now I have 3 viewers. If Tam went live right now, he'd have 20,
yeah,
and it's just because people know that when they go to Tam's stream, there's going to be a chat to talk to, people to hang out with, other people are going to be there. And until I cultivate that here, I'm just not going to have that, right? So when it comes to all these things that make a lot of sense, it makes perfect sense for Magic to do it with Game Nights because Game Nights gets 3 million views and they
yeah,
generate actual revenue. And by them sponsoring Game Nights, they get a ton more eyes on the product. And there's lots of people who play Commander or feel like playing Commander because of how much they enjoy Game Nights. It's one of the only Commander products I personally watch. And it's
yeah.
mostly because the production value is actually fucking insane. And I have no clue how much Wizards sponsors them, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be possible without Wizards sponsorship. So it's like one big paid commercial. Um,
Yeah.
Considering the outreach that even Tam has, how much would you pay him for a commercial versus how much revenue you would make back? It's just a shitty cycle because everything Jasco does to promote us helps us and everything we do to promote Jasco helps them. But if you're already stuck in the mud, you're not really
Yeah.
going to go anywhere until you introduce that extra element, right? You got to insert a brick or something to kind of launch off of, which when sets come out, they send boxes to much bigger content creators than our game has. And then
Right.
our community watches it and goes, well, why are we sending it to these random people? Why aren't we sending it to people I know? And it's like, well, because we need to get eyes on the product.
Yeah, and so like what I was trying, what my whole point was is that ultimately it could lead to giving you guys more support. But even just so, like I I know Magic the Gathering advertises. I know Yu-Gi-Oh advertises. I know a lot of the bigger card games advertise. Toei is an animation company that also produces products for their animes that they have. Why haven't why hasn't Jasco or Toei worked something out so they can, if Toei puts out a commercial for the My Hero Academia card game, it's gonna see some eyes and it's gonna flock more people to the game, which will ultimately, because I know a bunch of people I've introduced to the game,
Hmm.
they find it fun, but they're like, yeah, I've never heard of this, and I'm like, it's amazing to me because My Hero is super popular. It's a very popular IP, and it's like the same with One Piece. When One Piece dropped, Bandai jumped on that hype train hard, and they hyped it up big time, and that's why it's selling out. It's all, but I think that My Hero is more fun. It should be a card game that should be at least getting growing more than than it is right now. And that's the
Yeah.
part that kind of kills me is that it doesn't seem like they're doing enough advertising to get newer people in, which would ultimately flock more people to you guys. Because I know your channel does a lot of stuff for the big tournaments and covers a lot of like the deck lists and stuff. That's something that a newer player would really like to see.
I kind of took that over for HLC. That was definitely like Andrew Holder got tons of views just by doing short decklist videos, which realistically we should all be doing, but like everyone, because the community is so small, nobody really wants to step on each other's toes, which that's another part of growing is as we grow, you'll have to be doing stuff side by side. Like it's probably once a month that I want to do a thumbnail idea that someone else does. Just the other day I did a thumbnail and like someone was like, damn dude, I was gonna do the exact same one. Like there's some hive mind element to it. And I don't like to stream at the same time Tam does just because I know that I'll get like 10 people instead of 4 people if I do. Or
Yeah.
like I know I have to like stream until he's done streaming and then I'll get the raid from him, which is really nice of him as the biggest content creator for the game, basically. Definitely the biggest streamer. I guess he's got more followers on YouTube than Divide too, so I'm pretty sure it's easy to say he's definitely the biggest My Hero content creator. So, um, but at the end of the day, I don't think Toei makes any money off this game, and like as much as you could try to convince them that people will watch the anime and become fans because of the card game, like a lot of people I know who are Universes players didn't get around at least to watching My Hero until it was announced for the card game. I went out and I bought Soul Calibur 6 because it was the next set for Universes, and I like fighting games. I skipped I bought Soul Calibur 4, I skipped 5. I think it was 4, and those games are like 15 years apart, right? Like
Yeah.
so I didn't I've no, I didn't even buy Soul Calibur 4. I'm sorry. I played it at a friend's house. Like I didn't buy any Soul Calibur games until 6 just because I'm a sucker and I played the card game. So like the problem is that until it becomes bigger, it's just not seen as a worthwhile investment, and that's really the end of it, right? Is you have to
Yeah.
spend money to make money, but you have to make sure that you're spending money in all the right ways to make that money. And it's just really sad because from our end, and I know I've talked to other content creators before, and I don't want to spill too much of like what could have been a private conversation, but the amount of work that people are willing to do for just a livable wage is kind of insane. Like the
Yeah.
the commitment that content creators for this game are willing to have just to get like enough help to say I can focus on only this is definitely there. It's just we can't get that from the community, and I don't think it is strictly worth it from a business standpoint from the company because the community is not big enough. So really what I need is I don't even really need Jasco to promote my videos. I need
Yeah.
Jasco to buy a commercial and put it on fucking YouTube. I need every single
That's
time you watch a Twitch stream of a Pokemon TCG tournament that somehow, I don't know how you do this because I think it's like, maybe it's just selective ads. If you're a card game watcher, you'll get other card game stuff. But I need the next time that there's an Oceanic Regional Pokemon TCG tournament on Twitch for a fucking My Hero card game ad to run. I don't need them to really promote my videos. I need them to promote the whole community.
yeah, and that is true because it's usually targeted ads, I believe, in YouTube and Twitch. So even if they just bought a commercial, I think the game would gain a lot of traction.
Yeah, I
It's
need I
uh,
need when the next season of My Hero drops, I need a Crunchyroll commercial that runs before and after every fucking episode to remind you that you can play these characters in the My Hero Academia card game. Like,
oh yeah,
and that's the truth. Because if we had the size of community that other games had, it wouldn't be so obvious. It wouldn't be such a big thing. And it would make sense. Like we used the Game Nights example earlier, but how many Yugi tubers are like sponsored by Konami or make sponsored videos for their products?
yeah, good question. I don't know because I don't think Konami does sponsor, but they'll like provide product and stuff like Jasco does.
Yeah.
And like I've
I don't
the
watch a
thing,
ton of Yu-Gi-Oh content, and the stuff I do is a little specific. So like,
yeah,
I'm not 100% sure, but I've like never seen. I don't get like maybe it's just because of what I'm curated, but like I don't see too many Yu-Gi-Oh unboxing videos, for example. But
yeah, I see it. Like the stuff I, so a quick thing. So when I played like pretty much every card game from Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, Pokemon. I follow a bunch of those YouTubers and I still watch them. The ones that I do watch, there's like a couple that do pack openings. But for Yu-Gi-Oh, it's mainly like since the video game dropped, it's Yu-Gi-Oh Master Duel content, and that's the whole thing. Is that they just have now an online client that they can cater to, and I see ads for it all the time. And since Konami has that market, they're like, yeah, we're just gonna spam ads to everything and get people into the game. And I think you're right in that Jasco has to, if Jasco really wants this thing to take off, they need to just buy an ad and play target it towards card game players. Because there's a huge community of people that just don't know this exists. And like when I found out that UFS was like 15, 20 years old, I was like, how have I never heard of this? It's got like a
it's never
bunch
had a
of
commercial. Never, not a
exactly.
single time has there been like a fully fledged like 60-minute or 60-second commercial spot that has a 15-second and a 30-second version.
Yeah, and it's just like amazing because I found this game out and I'm like, yo, this is pretty fun. And then I looked back and I saw all the cards that were like the fact that there was Cowboy Bebop, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Mega Man. I was like, I would have played the fuck out of this game as a kid. Like
Yeah,
just I would have been bugging my mom every chance I get. Like, hey, can we go get some Mortal Kombat cards? Or hey, can we just go get some Mega Man stuff, some Street Fighter stuff? Because I played all those games as a kid, and it just like it resonated something within me, and I'm like, why?
you know
This
what
game should be so much bigger.
you know what the move was for me was every day I would I'd get $5 for lunch from my parents, which was we're starting in middle school. I don't know how it is for other schools, but starting in middle school, I started buying lunch at school instead of having it prepared. My parents made my lunch all through elementary school, like very uh, middle class white family upbringing until middle school. I moved to Vegas and everything was like flipped upside down, and so I would save $5 Monday through Thursday. Then on Friday, I would spend the $5 on pizza because it was pizza day, and we would get like leftover Papa John's or something. It was really bad, but it was still pizza, so you don't complain. And I would just like eat after school. Like I would come home, or like maybe I'd spend like $1 or $2 like on a muffin, and then I'd go home, you know. And at the end of the week, I'd have $20, and I would go buy a starter deck and 2 booster packs like every Saturday, like the dumbest person in the world, spending money the absolute worst way you could spend money to play a card game because I'm 13 years old by myself in a card shop. And I'm like, well, I don't have this character yet. And the one of the biggest draws or money sinks to playing the raw deal card game, the wrestling card game as a kid, was they made a starter deck for like 9 out of 10 characters. Like the majority of characters, I would say, had starter decks for them filled with completely crap junkola commons, but they all had 3 foil starter specific cards plus the foil character card that usually would get reprinted like once a year, and they have a reprint set like year. And so if you want the foil character card and you wanted these 3, luckily you only needed 1 per deck though. So like most of them were unique, which in that game meant 1 per deck, like it's limited for Yu-Gi-Oh, right? But if you wanted them, you had to drop $10 on a starter deck, and then you never had to buy them as singles. And like if you try to buy them as singles, they're all $350 each anyways, so you might as well get the starter. And so as a kid, I was like, well, I want every character card. Duh. I want the option to play every superstar, so I spent $10 every fucking week like a dumbass. And you know, like it sucks, but we need more of that for this game.
Yeah. Like it's coming from, so I came and discovered my hero from Dragon Ball. And I like the way Bandai does starter decks. I think that having unique starter deck cards is fine. You need to put 2 to a thing, especially if your card game is, hey, you could have up to 4 in the deck. So that way you only have to spend $40 if they do it at $20 a pop. And then you have your playset of your ultra rare cards, and it's an easier realm of entry. Because if you really like All for One, most All for One decks are going to want to play the ultimate combination attack card.
They certainly want more than 1 of it.
Exactly. So you're going to have to buy at least 2, and then you'll have to buy it on the secondary market, which most starter deck cards are super expensive because not a lot of people want to buy 4 of. It's just as much as that. I think if they started doing that, I think it'd be I'd be a little more inclined to spend a little bit extra to get those 2 starter decks instead of having to buy 1 and then trying to find a way to buy 3 extra the 1 card that I really want to play.
Right. Yeah, that's one of those things where I'm not a big fan of gambling. As much as I would like to enter these Monday monthly mayhems, which is its own form of gambling, but I hate gambling in terms of pack opening, and it really sucks that like it's almost especially bad for our card game. There's very little in the way of chase cards. When they've made chase cards, it's only hurt everything else, and they made the chrome rares like way too rare. Like I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that by now. Those cards were maybe not a failed experiment, but it wasn't healthy for the game overall. I think there's only a few real chrome chasers, a few real chrome whales, and I don't think the secondary market has really recovered. I think it cast this, combined with the fact that it was all about like set 1 and set 2 powerhouse cards, and then, you know, basically just One with Nature from set 3 and like Cork Pack cards. I think that really set the tone for set 4's debut to be pretty rough on the secondary market, because it's already a race to the bottom on CCG Player. But on top of that now, you know, the SRs are like some of people's, like, I don't know how Hold Hostage is like $30. Like, I think someone showed me, actually I can bring this up, I don't have to say their name, but someone messaged me. I was trying to sell a Hold Hostage regular SR for $50. That's where I had seen it listed on, I think, Rochester. And someone showed me a receipt for the regular SR for $15. And that's just, first of all, kind of ludicrous.
Yeah.
But if that's how many they have, like it's a pre-sale price. So first of all, people are kind of getting scammed a little bit. But when you're buying cases as a store, you have these guaranteed amounts, so you know you're gonna fucking have them. So like, they're not even really chase cards if a store is gonna just go, well, we bought 4 cases, 6 cases, however many cases to sell singles, and we know we're gonna be able to sell a playset of these, and you know, like they just list them at a completely, I don't know, it's an underwhelming price, basically, is what I'm getting at. And it's really sad because one of the things I was hoping for from this game, like, I think it should be cheap to get into. I was really hoping for XRs to be that market. I was really hoping that extra rares were going to be like our chase cards, and that the regular versions of stuff would be cheap aside from maybe like normal SRs. But even the XSRs are capping out at like $30.
Yeah, there's some that are like kind of up there still. Like pre-sale price for Vile Seizing, I think the four cost Shiggy attack is like $20 right now. Just the normal UR variant. But even then, like, I agree with you. I thought that XRs were going to be a lot. Just they should have been something better, and they stepped up their game for set 4. But for like the first few sets, they kind of like fell hard, and it's disappointing because it should be a easy barrier to entry. It should be, some of the normal ones should be pretty cheap. Obviously, certain cards like a Chivalrous Competitor that are staples that are only promos should have, a little higher price, and there should be some chase cards that are obviously a little bit more, but where the secondary market should be up there is just like every other card game, alternate arts, which are the XRs or the promo cards. But even that, Jasco kind of dropped the ball on some of the promos for the regionals for season 2 and season 3. Season 1 was top notch, and they kind of set the bar there, and then they left the bar up there. They didn't try to push the bar at all for any of the other sets, and that's how you also get people to want to sell these cards on the secondary market.
Yeah, I think as far as that goes, they get their hands tied by art sometimes, which that's its own thing. Because I've heard excuses about like, well, they're doing this thing in the art, it has to be this card, and then League Interview is just Dobby sitting there. Like the new promos look sick as fuck, don't get me wrong, but like the promos of them just sitting and doing nothing is like proof that the art can be whatever, right? So it's a little tough. Like I don't think that you want to pick you don't want to pick the rarest cards and tank the value, because we saw that with Excited for Blood, where the regional promo was cheaper than the ultra rare because they were more plentiful, and that was kind of its own thing. And like realistically, as a company, you shouldn't care about the secondary market at all. But I do think it is a pretty decent reflection of how many people are actually playing your game compared to how many people are opening product, because it's the kind of thing where or is it League Invitation or League Interview? I know I said League Invitation a minute ago, but now the chat mentioned, is it League Interview? Is it the 2-6? That's the promo?
I think so.
There's too many League cards. There's League of Villains, League Invitation, League Interview. Yeah. No, I said Invitation too, I'm pretty sure, but they're very similar. But the point is that even League Invitation should have more than just Dobby. But so the thing is that it shows me that there's still way more product being opened than people actually playing the game, because if people needed copies of these cards, then they would actually sell out at these cheap ass bottom barrel prices. But like they're gonna be cheap and people aren't gonna need them, and that's why you see Chivalrous Competitor cost more than a fucking SR, because people actually need Chivalrous Competitors. And so it's nice that the market is pretty much driven by people trying to take things to events. But if they were driven by alternate arts, that wouldn't bother me, because to me, a card game should be almost free to play. I don't think it should actually cost money. People are like, oh, it's how card games are. pay to win because you gotta buy the cards, and like that's just kind of ignorant to me. Like the first, like it doesn't have to be that way just because that's how it was. Just
Yeah.
because that's like a normalized business model. I think it should be nearly free to play your game, and then you should have fun getting alternate versions of things and having expression in your deck. And that's one of the biggest things that makes Commander the most popular or not my hero, the most popular Magic format is player expression. And I think if you give cool alternate arts and different foils and you know just different rarities like that, like player expression will drive that market for you.
Oh yeah, and like that's the thing is that the XRs could have been part of that, but also just like actual regional promos that people would want to get.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the Excited for Blood that was one thing that like I completely agree. But giving like say, it can't be fixed, an alternate art where like maybe instead of All Might showing Midoriya, it's him in the hospital bed surrounded by Sir Night Eye and Gran Torino. That giving common cards a higher rarity makes it so people want to play in these events to get those chase cards. And it but for like they did that for the one season and that's why they're still so sought after. And it's not only it's good, like you're right, they shouldn't care about the secondary market, but it also shows that a strong secondary market helps local game stores. And it means that they'll want to keep buying your product because hey, there's this chance that someone will trade in this card that I know is valuable, which means I'll make a profit.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that point too is look at Electric Jolt. Electric Jolt's probably the best promo they've ever made. It looks
Yep.
sick as fuck. It the Jolt zap, like it just makes sense. Like it's very simple. Excuse me. And it's a common card you can get for 5 cents.
Yeah.
But so many people actually want Electric Jolt promos because you're gonna play four of them because the card is fucking bonkers. So if you want to play the highest level of competition of Jiro deck or Denki deck or pretty much any fucking deck on its symbols, you can play the deck. But if you're gonna travel around to events over and over and over again, you're probably gonna want to, I don't know, show off a little bit. And that card was like the only one that really kept its value for a long time. And I you just got to capture that magic. You have to bottle that magic where you just find the most played cards that go in the most decks and then give it a cool art. And I think the other thing you mentioned, which is really smart, is alternate arts that aren't the same character. Why is it that the Specialist of Sound has to have Jiro on it? I mean, Specialist of Sound is not the best example off the top of my head, but Recovery Girl's Kiss could have Recovery Girl kissing someone other than Deku for the art. You could make a fucking cycle of Recovery Girl every time she kisses someone to heal them in the show and have 5 different alternate arts of it or whatever, and people could play one of each in their deck, and motherfuckers would pay $10 for that, even though it's not even a staple.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I think the one of the big things is alternate arts that can thematically show other characters, which would almost always be Foundation. Because attacks are generally like the character's name or their quirk and then something. So, but like Deku and All Might, they share the Smash gimmick on a bunch of stuff. So, give us that. Give us the maybe I don't know the show well enough. Maybe Deku doesn't literally do a United States of Smash, or maybe because I think Delaware Smash is a Deku card, but
Yep.
does All Might ever do a Deku Smash in the show?
No,
Or,
he does. He doesn't. But there are other areas that I agree with you completely. So
okay.
one of the ideas I had that I thought would be hilarious if Jasco did. There's a season after the provisional exam pro where they fail, Todoroki and Bakugo fail. If they were to ever make a Gang Orca card, they need to make one of his foundations wrong. And there's the scene where he throws each of the students and tells them that they're basically stupid. So an alternate art for that card wrong would be him throwing each one of the 4 different students. So now you want to gather up one of each and play 4 different types of wrong of him tossing Bakugo, Shoto, Kami, and I forget the guy who has the whirlwind quirk, but that itself would be very, very funny
He
to
just
me.
yeets each one of them on different art.
He just yeets each one of them, and it's just something simple like that. As you said with the Recovery's Girl's Kiss, it doesn't have she heals every other character in the show. Even for Specialist of Sound, you could put Present Mike screaming because he deals with sound.
Another one I've thought of for a long time is Rescue Complete. Everybody rescues people in this fucking show. You have other art. You have Saving Bakugo. You know, that could have theoretically been, I'm not saying it has to be, right? But like, that could have been a Rescue Complete alternate art. And then people would be like, oh, cool. It's like, I think there might be some idea where you don't want to mix symbol identity with characters too much. But I think people would actually really enjoy that. Like, putting Bakugo and Kirishima on a water life air card might seem kind of weird, but it might be kind of cool too, you know? Imagine if you had a deck, which you can do this now with high value target, but imagine if you had a deck that had a card that was the art of every single character from class 1A on it in your My Hero legal 1 symbol deck.
Yeah, and there's so many different points, like the as you said with high value target, with any of those symbols, it doesn't have to be like, you're right in the fact that you don't want to confuse people with symbol identity, but at the same time, there's just so many different things that you could do with any of these awesome cards that are played with. Like, even just what is it? I think it's Detroit Smash in one of the My Hero movies. My Hero, All Might and Deku perform a Detroit Smash at the same exact time. You could literally just take that scene and put it on a Detroit Smash card, and it would be pretty awesome. It
would print money. That shit would actually be a dope fucking. Even though we already have the champ version, like, give me that promo for sure.
There's just so much untapped potential, and they decide to do stuff with cards that don't see play, and that's part of the reason why the secondary market for a lot of these promos isn't really good. It's because they're just not playable.
Yeah, I need a heroic lineage reprint, but it has a question mark on it, and it's just Endeavor's family. And it's just heroic lineage, I guess.
That's
like, there's a lot of the starter deck cards could have generic enough names, like Self-Sacrifice could easily be transferred over to plenty of characters. Like, I mean, like you said, Deku and All Might can easily share a bunch of stuff. There's a lot of, I think, Denki quirk stuff where if it doesn't exactly sound like it has the word electric in it, you can probably, I mean, even Electrifying Performance. Electrifying Performance, it's a DLC card, but fuck it, let's make it a regional promo, and it's from the scene where they perform Jiro's song at the end. Like, you know, like, or I think, you know, there's so many. Maybe I'm thinking of a different card actually from Standard, but the point is that there's so many. There's too many cards to actually think about, and too many combinations to really think about. Where, you know, there's good opportunities for alternate arts, and it feels like they get handed art, and then they're like, okay, pick a card for this. And I'm hoping that we don't have that going forward, because we finally saw some what's the word, commissioned art. We finally saw like some completely original art for stuff like promos, and that is the first step. Like, we can critique the choices all we want, but that is the first step, and they have the opportunity to really knock it out of the park this year. But the thing that gets me is I don't particularly enjoy the foiling in the set. How have you felt about the foils that you actually have pulled from League of Villains?
Are we talking just like foiling for like rares, URs, or are we talking about specifically the foiling for XRs?
I actually have my cards right here from the League of Villains. Let me see if it's this one, where it looks like rares and ultra rares have like the same foiling. I just want to take a look just so I know I'm not crazy and I'm getting this like fucked up, but the majority of ultra rares and rares have like the same style of foiling now. Whereas before in the past it was like rares would be foiled around the image, which is fine but silly to me. And then ultra rares would be like foiled over like the main action points. And now the only difference I can see is I think for all ultra rares, the character in the art is not foiled, and all of the things around them, all their objects are. And in rares, they just kind of foil all the action points, you know. And then XRs, it's like everything is like blanket foil, which is, I guess, the best way to do that. But ultra rares and rares, I can't tell just by looking at the foiling anymore. Whereas I felt like I could in sets 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you. I have some of my cards as well on here. I was just looking through that. I'm like, huh, yeah, that is kind of true. There's a lot of foiling is kind of the same, which they
It
stepped
makes
up the XR game, but they kind of like did the
uh,
others a little dirty. But I mean,
it.
overall, the foiling is not as bad as I've seen in other card games. So I
Yeah.
still give them some credit for that. But yeah, I
The
will
the
agree that
the positive spin is that rares are much better now.
yeah,
Like rares are way, way, way better. Unfortunately, I'm the worst because when it comes to card games, I pretty much only care about playing the game. I very rarely care about any of the extra products and extra rarities. Like a lot of the stuff that drives these secondary markets and these decisions that we're talking about just don't really apply to me because I'd play the game with fucking Sharpie proxies all day, every day, and I used to back when we had cards that were out of print and nearly impossible to find, and no one was selling them. So, um, I when it comes to stuff like foils, I pretty much only like old school, early 2000s holographic, weird print foils, like original Pokemon style foiling, like holographic stuff, is
yeah.
kind of my thing. Like, you know, so I want stuff like that. Like, I want something where it's like a nice foiled image of a character, and then we just have like a crazy sparkly background with different stuff in it. And we've seen that for XRs, but it just doesn't. It's just not popping. It's like the difference between a holographic foil and just like a foil. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that, and I think that's also just an interesting point you brought up with that it doesn't really apply to you. To me, it's sort of the same. I do have like a deck that I want to eventually try to foil out and bling out, because it's my favorite character. But for the majority, it's I don't care because the cards
Mm.
play the same. It's more just like, hey, I'm gonna flex on your opponent kind of thing. But to some people that does matter. So if you make these XRs, worth it. One thing that I never understood is that the art, like for XRs, they could have did something so cool with character cards, and they could have just did a character card, like a scene from the anime, if they had to stick with scenes or like certain things. They could
Screenshots,
have
yeah.
maybe they could have maybe did where present Mike in the episodes when people's quirks are explained, it literally shows their name in Japanese and
Yes.
their quirk. They could have did that for XR characters, and it's just so
Maybe
it's
they don't
something
do it
that
for every character. Do they
even
not do it for every single character?
so they don't always like present Mike doesn't always explain their quirk, but they usually have their name and like in kanji and like their quirk.
Okay.
So in I know in the camp arc, which is what this set is kind of based off of, they do have like Moonfish and his like quirk is like Blade Tooth or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like they could have it's actually on the blade like Blades of Teeth or whatever card, his pretty
Yeah,
good unique
yeah.
card. It could have literally just took that close up where it shows his name in Japanese and his quirk and just put that as his XR character card. It'd be really creepy, but I could guarantee you there'd be a lot of people like that actually looks kind of sick.
That's honestly a genius fucking idea, and I've wanted to use those scenes for like video edits before, and I think at the same time I thought, hey, this would actually make like a better, like when they were doing the kanji on the cards, I was like, they should just do this instead. Like just put the name of the quirk on there.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely a brilliant idea that they should steal 100%.
Yeah. And it'd be a way to get the XR character cards to shoot up in value. And people would want to open product. They'd sell more product because people want to open those cards, and it would still, because as you said, it doesn't have to be for every character card, but that could be your chase. Those could be your chase cards.
Would you? Would it seem predatory? I guess. Would it be a bad idea if they instead made it like part of a class reunion box, sort of like a reprint set where, instead of it being the XR, you just buy a product and maybe you get like, I would say you should get one of each. Like you just buy like the class reunion box, and you get literally one of every single character from class 1A like that. And then you could buy like a villains box and get like one of every villain character that way. Maybe like a teacher's box, right? Like, you could have 3 different products, maybe 4. You split class 1A into part A and B, and like you just have only alternate art characters and, dice and other stuff.
I honestly don't think it would be predatory. I think it's a good business decision because from my point of view, and obviously there are people who think that, oh, I'm a collector, I need to have every variation, everything of the card, 4 ofs, to complete my collection. But to me, I might think about buying that just because I think that'd be really cool to have. But at the same time, it's not going to kill me if I don't have it because I could still play with the normal character card.
Right.
I think that it also depends on the price point, I guess, too. Because I honestly haven't looked at the class reunion boxes. I've seen some of the cards for them. I haven't seen anything else.
Okay.
So it really just depends. Because I think I saw yours and Charles, one of my buddies, podcast that you guys did guessing the class reunions. And from what you guys said, you're not guaranteed like one copy of everything. So yeah, that's pretty predatory on their part. But I can understand.
Games, baby.
Yeah.
It's just how card games work. Like, I hate that answer, but that is what you typically hear.
Yeah, and like the thing about it is that it doesn't have to be. They could do. So I'm gonna once again coming from Dragon Ball, reprint set every year called the Anniversary Box.
Yep.
They release it on the anniversary of every game.
That's what class reunion was supposed to be, by the way.
Yeah. They include 1 copy or 2 copies of the anniversary, their anniversary exclusive cards, and you get 2 copies of them. My Hero could do that, but the anniversary exclusive copy cards are non-foil. And then in little packs, like say packs of 5, you get 2 packs. All of those are foil, and they could be anything. Okay. So to me, that would be the better, like if you want to do something like that, but you want to have that little bit of random variation, you can include all those reprints at 2 ofs. So you need to buy 2 boxes to get a full playset, but they're non-foil, and then you have to kind of, well, here's a little bit of the luck of the draw,
right?
Which would help if they really want to keep that random variation, but it also just. You don't feel bad buying it because you get copies of those alternate arts. Sure, they're not shiny, but to some people that doesn't matter.
It's funny because while you were talking, it reminded me of when they announced Chrome Rares were character cards. I thought in my head at some point, I don't know if I ever actually talked about like on stream or anything, but I think at one point I was convinced it was going to be exactly that freeze frame with the quirk that you were talking about. And then when I saw the chromes and the way that they're like this muted singular color, I thought, damn, that color scheme is actually perfect for the freeze frame. Like the way it's because in the freeze frame, it goes not like black and white, but it gets like this like almost singular color palette, and it's shaded really nice. And, I don't even know what you'd call the effect, but everything kind of pops and has a grain to it. And I felt like the chrome rares are really similar to those freeze frames, but if it had like the quirk on the card, like I think that would look super tight. I I would love that because I don't know what every character's quirk is personally. And so like for me just identifying like cuz like Bakugo is like the explosion kid, but I don't know like is his quirk just called explosion? You know, like what is his quirk actually called? I don't know.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like it helps people who haven't seen the anime, but it's also just super cool looking. And the thing about it is they didn't have to do the Chrome Rares as only one set thing. They could have did it like how One Piece does it, or other card games do it, where you have this card, it's super rare. It's on maybe only like one per like 3 cases, but they don't have to have like, oh, 1 out of 100. It could
Well,
literally just be like, hey,
yeah.
you have a good amount of chance of filling it, but it's rare enough that it'll maintain a high enough value, but also not so elusive that you have to be a whale to actually pull one, or super lucky.
And I'm not 100% sure, but I'm like 99% sure the serialized cards that Magic the Gathering just had in their main set are different rarities of existing cards. Like I
Yep.
think there's one, at least one that I remember, I think is a common artifact that you
Mm-hmm.
can accidentally pull in a serialized 1 out of 100 special foil that has its number printed on it, which is like a thing that I guess every card game is doing now. And you don't need to have the Chrome Rare to play it, which, to be fair, they chose character cards, and so that was cool. Like, there is, Chrome Rares are 100% not unique, but even something like that could have been something that you continue to do with Chrome Rares where, yeah, people might really want to hunt down that Chrome version of League Interview or some toga card because people get horny for toga cards, but like,
It's the
which by the
waifu
way,
tax.
going back to our earlier discussion, if they ever, I'm just going to throw this in the hat. If you're going to do a reprint with an alternate art of Easily Excited, come on, put toga on it.
So if I found it funny because I know that Andrew and Tam did like if Jasco wanted to print money. If they really wanted to print money, the promos would have been all of the women characters
Yeah.
because the waifu tax. They
Where's
could
the
have did
cheerleader alt arts? Come on, Jasco.
right. But that's the thing is that like with nerds and weebs like that, like the easily excited reprint with Toga would instantly become like a $200 card because the waifu tax.
And it's
If
a
they
four
did
of. It's a staple zero diff, and all it does is give one speed one time.
exactly, or like if they wanted to do a character card, Mount Lady, because in the anime she does all these like accidentally sexy poses. It's like you just take a screenshot of that. I'm sure the
Oh
60
no, the
cent
character
character
with the
card,
biggest butt in the universe is sexualized.
right? Right? It's like they literally would have been just like, all right, cool. Here's this. Oh, great. Your 60-cent character card is now worth $50.
Right. I'm a little glad that they haven't gone like over like they haven't really like leaned into that too much, like cheerleader is a card, but we didn't get like a bunch of cheerleader mats and stuff cuz I personally so like for me as a person, if I'm going to do like the sexualized card game accessories and stuff, I kind of do like to go all the way with it, which is why I don't do it at all because I don't want to be known as the guy at my locals with a horny mat. So I'm just not going to do it because if I'm going to do a horny mat, it's not going to be appropriate for children, basically. And so I don't want these characters to, because I've heard people ask, like, hey, if we're doing like custom art now, why doesn't Jasco just print money by commissioning swimsuit arts and stuff like that? And I'm like, can we just not do that for this card game? Like, not with these characters. But if you did it with Midnight and Mount Lady, it's probably not a big deal. If you do it with the students, there's probably a couple ethics questions to be asked. But if you just did like if you did like a summer vacation, I don't know. Do they have a summer vacation in the show? I don't. Do they ever take
I
vacation?
Not
There's got to be
really,
a
but
beach episode, right?
there there is, but it's not. It's the students, but like, yeah, Midnight's whole quirk revolves around her showing skin,
right.
because she's like her. It's actually called somnambulism.
Right.
She like has to
She has
tear
to
off.
like
She
pull up
tears
her
off part of her
sleeve to hit
fabric.
you with the magic dust.
Yeah, and it puts people to sleep. So you could do alternate arts of her just like having to do that. But even then, there's some stuff that just all these alternate art cards for promos is good. Like even Chrome rares, you could do if you wanted to stick with character cards. Do it like how One Piece does it right now. One Piece has their secret rare has two alternate arts, a normal alternate art and a manga alternate art. And the manga is like literally snapshots of the manga.
That's
And
the
they could
next
do
step.
that.
How did we get screenshots of the anime but can't get fucking screenshots of the manga, bro? How do we not have manga panels? Blows my mind.
Yeah, and it's literally just like something so simple that could be your Chrome rare. Hey, Chrome rare shot from the manga of Midnight or of Midoriya.
Mm-hmm.
Like a great Midoriya card for a Chrome rare would be literally Dark Deku. It's Deku's Vigilante.
Vigilante
Arc.
Deku? That's pretty funny.
Yeah, and it's literally just all this stuff is so, and it would have been so much better perceived from them just like, hey, there's 5 Chrome rares, 500 total, spread across only first edition boxes. Good luck.
Yeah. I'm amazed that United States of Smash, because okay, so maybe I'm misremembering it. I watched at least that far. Like he gets his arm pumped up, but the rest of him is skinny, right?
Yeah.
Like the manga panel, or at least like, because I googled it, I looked up the manga panel for it, and the manga panel is actually pretty fucking sick. If you foiled out like the giant glowing energy behind him and his eyes, and he's still skinny and stuff like that. But then like Final Smash is also actually the scene of him punching him, so people get like weirded out about that. But then you look at like you look at United States of Smash in person, and he's like still bulked up. He's not skinny might. So maybe I don't remember the scene well enough. But like, why is All For One even in the fucking art? Like, get him out of here. Zoom in on All Might. Like, give me the action scene.
Like they could. You're right in the fact that so Final Smash is literally the scene where he hits him with the United States of Smash. That should have been the original art, but what they could have, something else that they could have done, you're right, is there is a scene where it just like zooms in on All Might's face for the United States of Smash. That could have been like that could have been their manga rare where they just literally did that in the manga variant of just zooming in on All Might's face, skinny All Might,
and just foil his eyes and the blood pouring from his face and nothing else. That would be so fun. Or maybe glowing energy behind him or something, like something in the background. But you just have blood foiled and his blue eyes are glowing foiled. Like so much cool stuff. And it's like so like United States of Smash is not a screenshot, right? Like that's not from the anime. I'm not tripping.
No, I think it might be based off of one scene where All Might is starting to like run out. He's running out of power and he's starting to revert.
Okay.
Because you do see a part in that, but I don't know why All For One's in there. They just kind of like added him in there just to kind of say,
cover
hey,
up that space.
Yeah, because that is.
It looks like
badass.
they commissioned 2 different arts and used one for a background and like zoomed it out, and then put the other one in front of it because they ran out of cards to use.
Yeah, and it like Final Smash should have been United States of Smash, just because that's literally hit. The United States of Smash is his final Smash, but that's the thing that got me too. I like looked at it and I'm like, that's not the artwork. Why would you do that? On top of the fact that the effect, only +5. It's like, dude, come on. Give me a chance to make it. It's supposed to hit fast, hit hard.
Why is there a maximum to that card? Like the fact that there's maximums to United States of Smash and All For One is honestly just offensive. If I build 12 foundations and I'm willing to commit all 12 to them and still lose to a fucking plus ultra, like let me just lose to the plus ultra block. Like, come on.
Legit, like There should be no cap on that because you're really only going to play in one deck or one character, which is all of All Might's characters. But you're going to do it, and it's going to be hilarious when it works. But then 50% or like 75% of the time when it doesn't, you're just like, well, I had a fun time because I literally threw everything into this one attack.
Yeah, like the
But
rival still gets an enhanced step, bro. Like I could see the way they designed it if the first enhance ended the enhanced step. If it's like,
oh
oh
yeah,
shit, it's a 9 high for every smash attack in my discard pile, and you don't get to enhance, yeah, that's a fucked up card and immediately goes into like every deck on its symbols, at least in a sideboard capacity, maybe. Like
yeah,
that card's insane. But like the way it's, the idea that like All for One's gonna get way too good, maybe in starter deck games, maybe it's just for the starter product. But the idea that All for One's gonna get to 18 foundations and suddenly become busted because it's 6 damage instead of 5, ooh no.
right. It like they put caps on the weirdest things, and it's like, oh wow, cool. My character's still got very slow attacks, but he deals 6 damage instead of 5. It's like, why would you put a cap on that? That makes no sense. And it's like it's the same thing with the United States of Smash. There's cards that counter it, like Plus Ultra. If you're going to a point where they have 12 foundations, more than likely you also have like 12 foundations.
Mm-hmm.
So you're
So,
gonna try to.
oh no, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're. I was just saying you're gonna try to block that anyway. So it's like, all right, cool. If I check a 5 here, I commit out. I still am fine.
Like for every foundation I can commit for speed, my rivals should theoretically have one to commit for paying the cost of blocking it. And it's base
Yeah.
4 speed, and your opponent should probably like check a base 5, so you're already one ahead. So like if we have like, you know what I mean? Like if we have the same number of foundations and you have a +2 block mod, you can commit all of your foundations and your character to just block it on a 5 check with nothing else involved. So like it's a weird choice, but one thing I like to do every now and then is I like to type in maximum into UVS Ultra and look at all of the things that they've decided to give a maximum to its benefit. And one of the cards was from universes that like got an errata and was a meme. It was max 4 for a while because it was an old card that said after your opponent makes a check, it gets minus X. X equals the number of assets in your staging area. And you're like, okay,
Oh
well,
God.
who's actually going to play 20 assets? Well, the assets in standard were busted as fuck. And if I can make you forcibly fail a block check, then yes, I'm going to play 20 assets, play one attack that blows up half my assets to kill you and uses the other half for speed. So, like, that was something that had to be errata. And it was like, okay, that's funny, but that's fine. There's another one that's like a 0 diff that gives speed for each of your momentum, but it's max 3, so you don't have a 0 diff giving +10 speed. Sure, that's really cool. We wanted to use this design space. One is like you can have 8 characters, you can have like 1,000,000 characters, but it gets stunned. So we don't want you to have stun 5 or whatever. But then you go to My Hero, and there's nothing. There's literally nothing until present Mike 1. And his is maximum 4 for cards removed from game. So as soon as you have 12 cards removed from game, he reaches his max bonus, which seems kind of silly that if you remove 20 cards from the game, I can't get, well, that would be like +5, +6 speed. Like if you cycled twice and the game's not over, I don't deserve to get 2 extra speed. I don't get that. And then the only
Right.
other two are All for One and United States of Smash. Those are the cards that they decided are too good to get uncapped bonuses.
That's like, it's weird because present Mike's literally like, you think about it, his enhance is once per enhance step, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
because if you remove an attack, it's doesn't untap. So on average, they play like 2 attacks, 3 attacks a turn. It's like
You're
if
not
there's
getting
like
to 12 removed unless they're Dobby or they cycle, right?
right, and if they've gone to like 2 cycles, more than likely the game's pretty much over. So why not just let me end it sooner than making me sit here and be capped at 4 speed?
I'm never getting to 4 speed before they cycle. Not with the current
Exactly.
card pool, not when he was developed. You can maybe make a case for playing it safe in the future or something, but like I should be allowed to punish people for sugar rushing. I already have to survive them sugar rushing me to get this crazy bonus. Like it's not a
Yeah.
hindrance to those types of decks, right? So like the maximum 5 on both of these just seems really, really weird. I'll be interested to see if more maximums come out, but like gosh, I can think of 5 cards off the top of my head that should have had a maximum on them, but don't. Like I
Yeah,
can
one of them
build
should be
more than
Jiro.
I yeah, like I can build more than I can build more than 5 foundations in a turn playing spinner, and then give really big sword more than +5 to a powerful rating. Home run comment, it's +5 to its powerful rating, like once in a blue moon, and it's also like 1,000,000 speed. So like Jiro could have been capped at +3/+3, right? Like, what's the big fucking deal that she only gets Ojiro stats once she gets to her
Right?
5th card? What's
It,
the other
it's
one?
weird.
Oh, 1.3 million. That's the other one that's like wild. That like I'm okay with that one scaling infinitely or whatever because it's only committed foundations and it's like a 5 diff that you'd play later on in a turn and stuff. So like I get it. It just makes it so much easier to input a backswing than basically any other attack in the game.
Yeah.
Like it is easier for me to kill you with a 1.3 million than it is for me to kill you with the United States of Smash, and I don't understand why that's the case. 1.3 million should be more universally applicable, more generically good, and United States of Smash should be better at ending the game, and that's just not true.
Yeah, and like I will argue though is that luckily you don't have a lot of, well, like now you do with how chaos is, but before you didn't have a lot of ways to increase the speed on uh, 1.3 million. So if they didn't block any of your attacks and they had like 12 committed foundations, it's a 3 low. So you still
Now
have a
it's
chance of,
now
but
it's
now
one
you
with
have a
nature, command pigeon
cremation.
flock, gotcha. In control is kind of fucked up on those symbols right now.
Yeah. And like that, obviously, now that card is legitimately just better United States of Smash.
Yeah,
But
it's
I,
it,
I don't understand it. Especially since that card is really just, if they wanted to be thematic, they should have just said it's legitimately you are, as All Might says, throwing your back into it. It is your last final hurrah. So if you miss, you're done. You're dead. More than likely, you are dead.
yeah, it just again maybe there's stuff that comes out in the future where they want to play it safe. Maybe they thought that playing command pigeon flock with this card would just be way too good. They did finally give like those symbols do have ways to touch the opponent's board, so like you can electric jolt down a speed reset. You can use erase to erase one. You can use to the rescue, right, to seal some stuff. So if this were in a world where you couldn't touch the rival stage, there'd be absolutely no excuse for this stuff. But the symbols it's on, maybe because that was a big thing. Like the good symbol didn't have for a long time, is it had no way to interact with your rival's stage, and all symbol doesn't have a great way unless you're a racer head. But those problems have been solved, so you're getting in there. If you have the right stage setup, you're gonna get in there. But
Yeah.
it's very weird, some of these design choices. Hopefully, like, how does this card not have powerful? Like, I guess it gets it from your smashes in your discard pile.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that they could have did with this card that I'm just surprised that they did not do. And all of it could have been thematic. Like commit your
Like,
whole stage, and then like maybe like another enhance. It's like commit your character. This attack gains powerful 2, or this attack gains stun stun 1.
it should get
Just something.
powerful equal to the number of smash attacks, right? Like instead of 1 damage for every 2.
Oh, that would be so much fun.
Like instead of getting +5 damage, I get powerful 10. so I can actually win the game.
Just play it as your second to last check on your in your deck, so that way you have all the potential smash cards in your drop area.
Realistically, you just play it after a Detroit Smash and All Might 1, and then you turn sideways and go Powerful 9.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the real answer. But yeah, it's just, I guess, just to cap things off, because we've been at it for almost 2 hours now. I guess the biggest crime to me is Ultimate Combination is basically the exact opposite of United States of Smash, and it is like infinitely better because of it. United States of Smash makes you tap out. It makes you not play anything after it. It makes you hope to win the game right now, and it doesn't seem to do a particularly great job of it. And the only thing it has over Ultimate Combination is that it increases its own speed and I guess some starting damage. Whereas
Ultimate Combination does, though.
Oh, Ultimate Combination does increase its own speed. You're right. It's for foundations, yeah. So Ultimate Combination gives you foundations, so you can use it to start off a turn. You can increase its speed, which is a win more mechanic rather than a... Sorry if you guys hear the sirens in the background. Which is a win more mechanic rather than a lose more mechanic. It's great for follow-ups because I probably just added like 3 to 5 foundations to my stage. So like... it's so weird because yeah, United States of Smash is like, here's a 9 high for 15. Hopefully this kills you at the end of the game. And Big Stupid Punch is like, yeah, here's a 10 high for your whole fucking life total, and I have 15 foundations now. Hopefully you can block everything else I'm gonna do this turn.
Right. It's so funny that Disparate, like as you were saying, it's like United States of Smash is totally worse than Ultimate Combination, but also it's funny because Final Smash, like they gave All for One the super awesome finishing move. They gave All Might 6 a semi-worst Specialist of Sound because that's what that card is. You play it on a 4, you check, and then you get to, if you have cards in your hand that you want to play on a 6, you just be like, all right, cool, I'll stack the 6 check on top of my deck for my next enhance, and that's it.
No, I'm going to argue on that one only because the thing about Final Smash is 90% of the time that I see people play it, you are putting an attack that you're about to draw on top of you. It is like one extra step to the celebrity status combo. It synergizes with like everything celebrity status does. But you're not wrong. A lot of times people are just going to be putting a 6 on top to play a 5 diff. But it is... Final Smash is what's making a lot of decks that I see people testing work, because if you can survive turns 2 and 3, your opponent has to go to 8 foundations basically, and then you can just start tutoring a win condition so you can play like lower attack counts and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's a +1 mid block, so but you're right in the sense that it is just generically a powerhouse fucking card that puts United States of Smash to shame.
Yeah, and it's just weird and unthematic. Like obviously, All for One, he's the ultimate combination of quirks, but like United States of Smash should at least be slightly better than the attack that he ultimately beat in the anime. And like Final Smash is, as you like, yeah, it's you stack a card on top of your deck. And
it's an opener, right? It's not a final attack at all.
Yeah, it should have been a Final Smash. But even then, like, it can be used the 2 different ways. That's why I said it's slightly worse than Specialist of Sound, is because you can either A, stack an attack on the top of your deck, draw said attack, or if you have an attack in hand that you're trying to finish them off with and you know that it will kill them, you could stack your deck with a good check. Which ultimately All Might 6 is around. It's thematic for the character built, but you should have been able to... Like, they should have gave United States of Smash the respect it deserves, and they did not.
Big blunder for sure, especially for more fans of the show that I talked to. I wasn't a big fan of that scene, so I was kind of trolling on Facebook the other day where someone was like, it's the opposite, it's the antithesis of thematic or whatever. I put it in my hot takes thread in my Discord. And I let people vote on it because I wasn't really sure, because they're not wrong in the sense that like the card is kind of doo doo butter, but I don't think it was necessarily anti-thematic. It just wasn't good enough to be like to feel good for the thematic. So um the I think the overall I think the verdict was that it's not really a hot take because the card does suck. Um but I did think it was like a decent attempt to be thematic. How do you feel about that? The theme of I'm gonna commit everything, I can't play anything after this, and it's just all numbers coming at you.
I think that when since they eroded it to be what many people were thinking was only your ready foundations, it
Mm-hmm.
definitely made it more thematic. If they had just you had to play this as your first card and it sucked as much as it did, then yeah, it would not be thematic at all. It would have been straight doo doo butter and just terribly unthematic. But making it where now it's like, all right, you could play this as your third and final attack. It's more thematic, and it was a good attempt, and that errata definitely helped kick it into thematic. But it's sad seeing like probably the one of the most iconic moments of the show, because that's what it is. A lot of people know that scene,
Yeah.
making a card that is legit not worthy of the name of that scene.
I as someone who didn't like the scene, I really like if you just go to YouTube and you look up the Japanese voice actor doing the call for United States of Smash, it's actually incredible. And I think it is probably played up for the video, but like there's a video of him like passing out for 3 seconds because he's like putting so much into the Smash scream part. So it's definitely iconic, and I I hope that they so this is something they used to do, which they haven't done yet, and it might be confusing to people, but I hope they just do a two dot version. Where the same way with characters where they have like a version like one, two, three, four, you used to have dots next to the name to determine a different version of a card with the same name. Because like in fighting games, there's multiple Hadokens, right? And you can
Mm-hmm.
only and every time you want to reprint Ryu's Hadoken, it's got to be Ryu's Hadoken. So we know it's Ryu's Hadoken because that's just how it was. Make 12 Street Fighter sets, you're going to do more than one Hadoken. And
Yeah.
so maybe we'll get sooner than later a United States of Smash 2 dot, because I think people wanted to have a lot of fun playing a big dumb punch and screaming United States of Smash at their locals, and you're just kind of forced to do that with Texas Smash.
Or ultimate combination, because that's literally just a big dumb punch.
It's just a big dumb punch. Yeah. Yeah, man, that card's cool as fuck too. Actually, like building stuff from your momentum. That's actually like a sick design space where, like, you can really get some. Like that card's way more thematic to me because you get like the I'm cunning and evil and I planned all this, and my big ultimate combination is literally a combination of all the things I've been working towards and can surprise someone with like a villainous plot. So,
Oh yeah, that was a lot more thematic. And for someone who, even I do love the anime, and I think that they've done a good job capturing the quirks of people. I think
mm,
they were kind of in a bind with All for One because they already did what All for One wants to do on Monoma. So I think they
that's
did a decent job with him,
yeah.
and I'm hoping, because he's obviously the big bad of the show, I'm hoping that for competitive at least, we see him find a spot in competitive play. And obviously he's going to be in casual play, but I want to see the big bad of the show because obviously he's all hyped up. You want to see him represented somewhat because people know All for One, people know All Might. All Might 3 is a still a very top tier competitive deck.
That
So
deck
you
is
want to
nuts.
so you want like the big bad of the show to be the one of the top tier competitive decks, and I think hopefully he's good enough to see that,
Mm-hmm.
because he obviously has big stupid punch and he's got some other tricks, but it's so they put themselves in such a bind when they released Monoma before all for one.
Well, and I'm kind of surprised they went with Monoma the way they did at all, because you could not do the way that people really thought All for One was going to be, because there's an old there's all kinds of, it's Quan Chi from Mortal Kombat where he used to just steal the soul of character cards in your deck and steal their abilities for like one enhanced step or like for the turn or something. And that was just too hard to balance. So
Yeah.
I kind of knew that All for One was never going to use that design space, but it's weird to me that Monoma does. And then Monoma does it like in a much more thematic way because like All for One's not like stealing your quirk really. He's like using all the quirks. So I kind of get where they were coming from. They went with a different. They didn't really do his quirk justice. They did his character justice. The scheming, plotting, waiting behind other people. So I think they did a good job with that. But yeah, I'd really like to see an All for One two dot that's like a promo character that doesn't have his own support that just fucks around with other characters' abilities and their support. But I have no clue how you would balance that. Unless it's maybe once per game
Yeah.
you get to just steal an ability.
I think it would be really cool if, like, yeah, one quick they
Oh, you're going
probably should have
robotic
done.
on us.
Uh,
Uh-oh.
sorry, there's a storm around here. But what my whole thing, I thought that what they would have done is if all for one had some similar technique as now, but once per game, one turn can become to steal a quirk
Yeah.
and get to become a character.
Yeah. I think that would probably be how you'd have to do it, is like once per game you get to I think it should come from your hand too, because before it would come from the discard pile, but that's like too easy to fill up in our game. But I think you could do something like that. I think we lost you. You're frozen on my screen. Yeah, well, that's pretty unfortunate. We were gonna be wrapping things up here in like 2 minutes, anyways. So let me give him a quick message. Uh, yeah, there it goes. Okay, there the. All right, well, that's gonna do it for this week's. It's a little abrupt, I know. Sorry, folks. Unfortunately, we lost Nicholas here. I'm not gonna mess with my windows